So, welcome back, everyone. So when I made my video about my top 10 moments from, or things, whatever, from season 1 of the Wheel of Time TV show, I inadvertently had 3 of those moments be Nynaeve related. And you might not believe me, but I swear this is true. I didn't realize it until somebody mentioned it in the comments, and I was like, oh, damn. Kind of showed my hand there. I mean, okay, it's no secret. I'm really not good at hiding my feelings. I do love Nynaeve. She is my favorite, but it made me think that I needed to be a bit more deliberate with this and try and spread the love among the characters. So to that end, that's what this video is going to be about. It's going to be my favorite moments, my favorite specifically character moments for each of the main characters. By which I mean, when I say main characters, I mean Nynaeve, Lan, Moiraine, Rand, Mat, Egwene, and Perrin. But before I begin, of course, spoilers. Obviously, I'm talking about season 1, so spoilers for the entire first season of the Wheel of Time TV show. And as far as book spoilers, no specific plot spoilers beyond book 1. Eye of the World. This is so rare for me. But I do vaguely mention some things beyond book 1, but no specific plots, just very vague allusions to character developments. So I think if you've read the first book, you're safe. So yeah, let's jump in.
Let's be nerdy, babe. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy. Let's be nerdy, babe. Let's be nerdy, babe. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy, babe.
So let's begin with Lan. Lan is a very stoic character, but even in the books, I don't think he is as silent as people seem to think he is, like as people remember. Lan's pretty witty. He's sarcastic even, and I really enjoyed seeing his personality in the show. The first moment that comes to mind is this moment between him and Moiraine when they are commiserating over the fact that they've lost their dragon candidates. It's actually a great moment for both of them. They are both taking responsibility, not allowing the other to bear the burden of guilt on their own. And then Lan says the absolute genius line of, you always get emotional when I drink. And that line is just genius. Whoever wrote that line needs a raise. Because it is funny, it is sweet, it shows their connection, and it also conveys information about the bond that we perhaps didn't have before that, or people who hadn't read the books didn't know. Another moment of his that I love is that moment where he stands watch as Moiraine has her rendezvous with Swan. I love his just stating it so matter-of-factly that he's gonna keep watch. He will protect her. He doesn't even question it. That's what Lan is and what he does. It's great. But I think my favorite Lan moment has to be the prayer scene with Nynaeve. That whole scene is beautiful, but I think the moment that breaks me is when he offers to translate the prayer for Nynaeve. I love everything about the way that he does this. That he offers, first of all, he doesn't just do it. And then when he doesn't make a big monumental scene out of it. Even though he must know that this mystery will have haunted her for her entire life, to not know what the last words that her parent said to her, to not know what they meant. He gives Nynaeve this incredible gift without through his attitude or his tone. He gives her this gift without asking for anything back. And it's so kind. Y'all, you all know how much I already love Lan, but this moment, I fell a little bit more in love with him in this moment. I'll move on to Perrin. Now, this one might be the hardest. I don't know. There's a couple of ones on this list. But this one is pretty hard for me to think of a favorite moment, because I do think that Perrin's storyline was the most shortchanged in season 1. I think it happened largely as a result of the writers trying to hide who the dragon was, so they felt that they couldn't, reveal fully who Perrin was. But I do think that it meant that Perrin was a lot, he was on the back burner a lot. But one moment, or I guess it's a series of moments through Perrin's story that I know it frustrated me actually on first viewing, but on subsequent viewings, it feels right to me. And like it is definitely showing us things about who Perrin is how he deals with his wound. He has this wound on his leg, and he examines it on his own. He is traveling with a woman that he just saw fight off a horde of Trollocs, and more to the point, a woman he knows healed Rand's father, but he doesn't tell her or anyone else about the wound on his leg. And this feels true to Perrin. Perrin would think this over and ruminate and not tell anyone, and probably think it was his own fault and that he should bear the consequences. Perrin's a bit of a drama queen. But I think my favorite character moment with Perrin is his conversation with Isla. This might be cheating a bit, because really it is Isla's speech that I'm loving in this moment, but it does impact Perrin. Like, the Tuathon in the show they're a legitimate alternative life. In the books, they don't feel like a real choice to me, but the way Isla is able to articulate their philosophy, I feel the pull, and I know that this is a fictional show, but for Perrin, I can only imagine how strong the pull is to this philosophy, the pull to this life, how strong that feels, especially given what he's just gone through. He's not one to say what he's feeling, but I now imagine that through the rest of this season that he has this ideal just playing around in the back of his head. And I can only imagine what that's going to mean for him going forward. Okay, so let's move on to Mat. Now this one, also a bit hard because, well, obviously Mat's story got a bit truncated due to the actor that is playing Mat leaving after the first 6 episodes. So I think it's fairly obvious that there were plans for his character in the final 2 episodes, and I think I can even see where I think he would have fit in. But, okay, with what we have, I think one of my favorite moments, I don't know, saying favorite feels a bit cold because it's a really dark moment, but it's the moment when he asks Rand to promise him that he won't let Mat turn out to be like Logain. It's a pretty dark moment, like I'm pretty sure he's asking Rand to kill him, but it definitely lets us see a bit of who Mat is, how Mat thinks, and it makes me wonder what he's going to think or do when he realizes that it wasn't him, that it's Rand, that Rand is the dragon, that Rand can channel. Having gotten so low personally, like for Mat, when he thought it was him, how is he going to take it when he realizes that it's Rand? But if I'm going to pick an absolute favorite moment with Mat, it has to be when he saves his sisters, and to a lesser extent how he is with a little girl on the Grinwell farm. This, to me, it's a bit of a remnant of book Mat, because book Mat and show Mat are quite different at this point. I think the plan is for show Mat to grow into book Mat, and their characters are going to merge, but as it is, they had Mat start from a dark place and then get darker with the dagger, as opposed to in the books, he starts out as a loyal, happy friend who is corrupted by the darkness of the dagger. I think they end up in the same place, but their origin point is different. But the way that he runs out into the battle on Winter Night to save his sisters, in that moment, I see the Mat that I know, right? The Mat from the books, the Mat who doesn't think twice about helping his friends and the people that he cares about. Moving on to Egwene. Oh, my girl Egwene, she did really well for herself this season. I love that moment, like while tied up with the White Cloaks, where she outwits Valda. She shoots off this pathetic little ball of fire at him to distract him from the fact that she's burning away Perrin's ropes. That is so Egwene. She's powerful, but more than that, she is smart. Moiraine was right when she said that Egwene's power was her mind. I just love that in this incredibly high-stress moment, she was not only able to access the one power, something that we know it takes training to be able to do with any control, training that Egwene doesn't have, or barely has anyway, and in that, she is also able to outthink her captors. That's Egwene. That's Egwene through and through. And then, okay, in that same moment, her having the presence of mind to grab the Aes Sedai rings. I know I would have been out of there without a second thought, but she thought ahead to where she was going and she grabbed them. Again, that's strength of will and presence of mind. And if I'm talking character moments, which I am, that's the purpose of this video, even more than that moment when she grabs the rings, I love the moment when she gives them to Moiraine. The forceful way that she says that Valda won't hurt anymore, Aes Sedai. She's wrong, of course. I mean, I think she is anyway. I'm pretty sure she didn't kill Valda, but I love the way that she revels in the justice that she thinks that she is meted out. Again, that feels very, very Egwene. But okay, if I'm going to pick an absolute favorite moment, it has to be when she meets with the Amerlin. God, everything about that interaction is gold. And the physical acting that Madeline Madden does here, the way she initially mimics Moiraine, but then looks at Nynaeve and tries to mimic her stance, and then, like, you see the indecision between which one of her mentors is she supposed to follow. It's brilliant. And then the way that she swells with pride when she thinks that Siuan is talking about her as the strongest channeler in 1,000 years, but then the shocked way that she looks at Nynaeve, and then again the way she stands proudly when Siuan mentions the rings. Everything about it, it's so good. Everything in that moment tells us so much about who Egwene is, especially at the end. After Siuan has given her whole speech, and Egwene asks the most Egwene question ever. She asks, okay, what do we do now? What should we do? What do you want us to do? Egwene is about action. And, oh, man, I love that scene. All right, next, I'm going to talk about Rand. Now, if you know me, know my channel, you will know that despite the fact that Rand is, Rand, he's the dude, right? He's the dragon. He is not high on my list of favorite characters. In fact, on the list for this episode of characters, he's at the bottom. Sorry. It doesn't mean that I don't like him. I do. I just don't find his character all that interesting. But I do like him, and Rand got some great character moments in the show. It's interesting, actually, because in the books, I barely remember or even register that Egwene and Rand are officially, apparently, a couple. And yet, when in the books, Egwene mentions that she is wanting a job or a life that may preclude a relationship or a future with Rand, he acts really jealous and possessive, resentful of her wanting a life that might not include him. But in the show, their relationship feels real and deep, and yet, when she mentions wanting to be a wisdom, he reacts with grace and maturity, and I loved that moment. Of course, he does walk it back a bit a few episodes later, and while it annoys me, I forgive it more readily than I do Book Rand, because Book Rand does this, like, right off the bat, whereas at least in the show, like, Show Rand has been through hell. All of them have been through hell at that moment when he kind of walks back his acceptance of her choices. A little waffling, in my opinion, during, like, this trauma that they're all going through. A little waffling is it's understandable. Another moment, or, okay, well, not moment, really. That's a thing that happens. But, okay, in Eye of the World, the book, not the final episode, Rand gets sick, and Mat looks after him. In the show, the reverse happens. I mean, there's a part in the books where Rand is looking after Mat, too, but it's more of a theme that Mat looks after Rand. And just like how in the books, the loyalty that Mat shows to Rand, even with all that's going on, like with Mat and his dagger corruption, all of that, it endears me to Mat. In the show, the way Rand looks after Mat, it endears me to Rand. And it actually culminates in Rand trying to physically defend Mat from an Aes Sedai and her warder. Like, he had to know that was hopeless, but as Mat says, he tries, and I love that. But Rand's best moment, his absolute best moment, is in the final episode, obviously. I mean, obviously to me. Just like how I loved Rand respecting Egwene's choice when she first told him that she wanted to be a wisdom, in the finale, it is Rand respecting Egwene that actually helps him win that fight, or at least appear to win that fight, because I have thoughts on that. That smirk as he vanishes makes me think the Dark One has some tricks up his sleeve. But what we saw from Rand in this moment, it was awesome. He chooses to not use his power to get what he wants at the expense of another person's autonomy, identity, their will. And I loved that. I love what it says about who Rand is, about who he wants to be. This is a man who, when given power, will not choose to trample over other people. And given who and what Rand is, that is an amazing thing to know about him. This was a great moment. It was an A-plus character moment. I'll move on to Moiraine. This one might be the hardest one for me to choose a single favorite moment because I've said it a million times. We've got Rosamund Pike. And I've also said this a couple of times. I knew going in that Rosamund Pike is an amazing actress, but I somehow just didn't expect her to be giving her all in this show. I don't know that I consciously thought that, but I know I must have thought it because the amount of times I was just shocked and floored by how much she was giving in this show. How she's acting her ass off constantly, and it's incredible. She infuses every single moment that she's on screen, even in the background, with subtle things that give us information about who she is as a character, from how she stands and moves to slight changes in expression or quick flashes of facial expressions over her face. Every single scene that she's in, even if she's not the focus. One of these times when you are, if you go and back and rewatch, just watch Moiraine in those moments and you'll see what I mean. She is always giving you something, always telling you something about Moiraine, every moment that she's on camera. So yeah, it's hard to narrow it down to just one, or even just a few, but I'm gonna try. Badass character moment has to be the Battle of Winter Night. I mean, right out of the gate, Moiraine, this tells us that Moiraine is going to give every single ounce of herself to this fight. When she pulls that Trolloc blade out of her shoulder and decimates the Trollocs as well as the town, and then collapses in exhaustion, we know in this moment who Moiraine is and what she is willing to do. That moment is incredible. In the season finale, the way she holds herself together after what the Dark One did to her, until Lan is there, and then we see her crumple. God, it's heartbreaking, especially after what we've seen her go through this entire season. How she did not let the pain of the wound from the Trolloc blade break her, but this loss of her access to the One Power has gotten her to this point. It breaks me, and it also tells us something about her relationship with Lan. You know, how she feels free to let herself be this vulnerable with him. We actually see a bit of this before in that scene in episode 4 that I mentioned earlier, where she and Lan are sitting and commiserating. She might, in that moment be kind of water bond drunk or whatever, but it's still a lovely moment where we see her being open and vulnerable with Lan. Oh, and speaking of her relationship with Lan, the funeral scene, seeing the way Moiraine feels his grief, and oh god, the acting in that scene, I feel like you can actually see the feedback loop between them as they feel each other's pain, and then it's growing exponentially as it's passed between them. It's beautifully done. It's masterful. Oh, and that scene where Egwene gives her the rings. It's a very, very quick scene, but again, watch it. Look at Moraine's face. You see the grief on her face as she looks at the rings and sees these remnants of her dead sisters. It's very, very quick. She doesn't let Egwene notice it, but if you watch, you can see it. You can see it pass over her face. That is a moment that lets us see a bit of who Moiraine is. And I love feisty Moiraine when she stalks down Leandrin in the hallway, or when she tells Nynaeve that she needs wisdom, or my favorite.
Swan Sanche waits for only one woman. And it's not you.
Oh god, that line read. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. But I think my favorite Moiraine character moment has got to be with her and Swan. This time where they're in wherever they went for their magical booty call strategy session. I feel like this is the only time that we see Moiraine be fully herself. I was about to say fully relaxed, but I don't think that's true. I don't think we see anyone relaxed in this entire season because, apocalypse. But we see her laugh. We see her smile. I said in a previous video that seeing some of the Lan and Nynaeve scenes felt like a gift. This scene is in that same vein to me. I don't know that in the books, if we ever really get to see Moiraine fully let her hair down, so to speak. So seeing this side to her, it feels like a peek behind the curtain. I know that the show choosing to center Moiraine in a way that still to me feels very true to the story is going to make my next reread, I'm kind of in the middle of a reread now, but it's going to make my rereads different because while I've always loved Moiraine, she's never been my character. She's never been one that I focused on or latched onto. But the show giving me this insight into her character is going to add depth to her in the books for me. Like, when I say a gift, that's what I mean. I've read these books, I don't even know how many times, and yet I think because of the show, I'm going to see new things when I read scenes with Moiraine in them now. And that's amazing. And of course, okay, you had to know that I was going to end this with Nynaeve, right? Like, Zoe Robbins just absolutely slays as Nynaeve. She's just amazing. And because of how good she is and the Nynaeve factor, again, it's hard for me to narrow things down with her as well. She has so many amazing moments. That scene that I talked about earlier with Egwene and Nynaeve when they met with Swan, that is an amazing character moment for Nynaeve as well. I love the way she stands during that scene, like just the physicality of both of them. She's got this wide, aggressive stance that just screams, "Oh, just try me." And if you compare that with how she stands when Moiraine confronts her, it makes both of these moments better. How she can't even hold Moraine's gaze, but she stares down the Amerlin seat. She even talks back to the Amerlin seat. It's amazing. Or this moment. Oh God, I love this moment. When right after finding out that Alana has adult fun time with her warders, Lan leaves the campfire to go see Moiraine, and you can see Nynaeve putting two and two together and wondering if maybe the answer might not, in fact, be four. Or her explosions, it's specifically the one in the ways where you see her respond to her greatest fear and anxiety with one of Nynaeve's best qualities. She responds with righteous anger. I know a lot of people don't like her anger, and I agree, it's not always the best response, but righteous anger is awesome, and I loved seeing her respond from that place and use it to help and protect her friends. And I called out the funeral moment with acting and how that shows us their character. Zoe Robbins also amazing in this. And it is, again, a character moment that shows us her connection with Lan. Because, you know, we see the love and the bond between Moiraine and Lan in this moment. Nynaeve's not bonded to Lan, but you see it hit her. You see the grief on her face as she is grieving for her friend. Also probably grieving for Stepan. She had been traveling with him for a month. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Nynaeve hates suffering. Nynaeve hates pain. And I love that. But okay, favorite Nynaeve character moment. Oh, I'm honestly having trouble narrowing it down to one because, I don't know if I can. Because there are two moments from the very first episode that I love them both. And I feel that they are two very important parts of who Nynaeve is. The first is this moment from the Beltane lantern ceremony, where you see her place her lantern in the river alone, and you see her wipe tears from her eyes, and you see her straighten her skirts and return to the village. You see that she is grieving someone or something, but she is doing it alone and then making herself presentable for others. Without going deeply into spoilers beyond book one, because I think I've been pretty good about that so far, this is a very Nynaeve thing. Nynaeve is very protective of others, but also of herself and of her self-image. She doesn't want others to see her be weak or vulnerable, so she hides it from everyone, to her detriment. There are moments in the books where she cries, and the text will outright say that she's crying, but she tries to hide it, even from herself, even in her own mind. She tries so hard to do that in her own self-talk that many readers don't even register that she's crying, even though the text says it. Like, reread the chapter from book one where Moiraine tells Nynaeve that she can channel. If you don't pay attention, there's just one sentence that says it. I think it's the last sentence. You might not realize that she's been crying throughout this scene. Because she hides it, even from herself. So yeah, all of that to say, I love this scene. It tells us so much about her and her role in the Two Rivers and how seriously she takes her role, but also what this role, her role as the wisdom, what it has taken from her. Everyone else is grieving with other people, but she's isolated and alone. Okay, the other character moment from episode 1 that I love is during the Trolloc attack, when a Trolloc screams in her face and she screams back. God, I want to bottle this moment. It is a pointless thing that she's doing. Yelling in a Trolloc's face does absolutely nothing, but it feels so So Nynaeve, it's, okay, here she is. She is face to face with a nightmare. She is face to face with something that she probably doesn't even know what it is, and it has killed people that she knows in front of her, and her response in the midst of her terror and fear is rage. It's to yell defiance in the face of her terror, this nightmare. It's to spit in Sightblinder's eye, so to speak. It's, okay, yeah, I think this might be my favorite. I don't know. It's a moment, it encapsulates so much of what I see in Nynaeve that I wish that I had. Oh, so, okay, going over this, I can't wait for season 2. I mean, I have to, but oh my god, I want it so bad, put it in my veins, I need it now. Okay, those are some of my favorite character moments from our 7 main characters from season 1. How about you? What moments stood out to you? What moments do you feel gave you good insight into these characters? What moments made you hopeful or curious about where they're going from here? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like my channel and want to support me, you can check out my Patreon, which is going to be linked in the description. To my patrons, you are fueling this channel. Honestly, I could not do this without you. So, as always, my deepest and sincerest thank you. Thank you so much. And with that, I will end this here. So please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.